Performance Monitoring Auditing Committee at this time. We have committee presentation update. Is there anything for that line item?
No, ma'am, we don't have any presentations today.
Okay, we'll move down to number 3, proposed agenda items for our April 27th, 2021 meeting. And the first one is pasture amenities.
Yes, ma'am. We'll begin with Mr. Cooksey.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. This is actually a recommendation to exhaust the remaining balance of funds that we have from a 2019 5307 grant that has been amended to purchase passenger amenities, including shelters, benches, trash cans. This will really allow us to replace deteriorating amenities, or also to replace items destroyed by an accident or by some accidents we've had previously. It's not a lot left on it. It's $84,250. The great thing about this is $67,400 is the FTA amount, is the 80%, and then there's a 20% match that we would be able to obtain that amount from our SPLOTS funds. So really, there's no cost on this. It runs out at the end of the year, so it's a great opportunity to take advantage of, go ahead and kind of build up our supplies that we do have as far as amenities. And so it's taking the time now to go ahead and bring that forward to take advantage of that. The great thing is we have already acquired our quotes, and we have a manufacturer that came in where we'll be able to use them. It's the same one we've been using. So really not a lot of anything different on this other than being able to move forward to kind of shore up our coffers as far as supplies in those areas. So that's what I'm bringing forward here today.
Now I'll tell you about my concern, and I don't know if you're aware of it, but the board have been having discussions with staff about putting other canopies and other positions in other spots in the city of Savannah. Where people are catching the bus, there's no benches there, there's no no shelter, none of that kind of stuff is already available. And we've been talking about it, and I don't know what has happened with that as far as, we're talking about repair and replacing old stuff. But what about the discussion about having additional seating and canopies at spots where there is none?
Right. I know that my understanding there was, like you said, some conversation on that, or brought forward the different stops where there needed amenities. I'll have to follow up on where they were, and probably much didn't go out in 2020 as far as that. But I can follow up on that. We're low now. We usually keep in at least 10 items of each. So this is really kind of beefing that up for things, again, that have been destroyed, that were already in place, or maybe some new things that need to happen. I am currently working on acquiring the list of the latest area where bus stops and shelters are needed based on, the policy of the organization. So those things haven't stopped. This is just an opportunity to shore up what we don't have, or to add to what we do have, because the money's there and the grant is there as well to go ahead and purchase those items at no cost to us.
I understand that, and I can agree with that. But what my concern is, if there are areas that need shelters and never had them, and we've got some money that we can, if it's just one or two, I think just in good faith, we need to consider those areas as well.
Yes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to add, Dr. Robinson, that it has been the policy of CAT to examine those stops that have the most boardings and the lightings. So based on that some of these areas that you may be speaking of, they may have one or two people that maybe catch the bus at that bus stop, so they wouldn't qualify under the current policy. But to your point, maybe we could just provide a stop in those areas. Director Stone said in an earlier meeting that she was going to examine some areas in her area for bus stops in make a report back to Mr. Cooksey about those specific stops. So if you would like to add to that, we would appreciate that. If there are specific stops that you have in mind or in your district or your area that you notice might be in need of some amenities, if you would provide that list to Mr. Cooksey as well.
Yeah, and I'll do that because I know that the stop at Walmart, that looks good. You know, the canopy is there, but when you go further down that same route, like you get into the Nottingham area along Nottingham Drive, there's a stop there, but there is no, and I don't know whether I know there's easement, you know, because they were going to look into easement. All that stuff was supposed to be being looked into a year or so ago.
Yes, ma'am.
You see what I'm saying? So I'm
Yes,
I'm just suggesting that we don't forget that
yes.
we need to do that and be able to report that. I want to know the progress on that end as well.
Okay, I understand.
That's correct. I'll get that information for you.
Does that in your report? Does that in your report, Mr. Cooksey?
Yes, it does.
All right, we're on finance consultant contract change order. Ms. Gloria.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. We're requesting that the board approve a change order for Ray Michelle contract. Mr. Ray Williams has been working with finance as well as other members of Chatham Area Transit, basically the chiefs and directors, to prepare the fiscal year 2022 budget. And we are getting close to the interim CEO's approval amount. We're currently at a total of $14,000 in payments made as of March 19th. And we would like to get board approval to exceed that amount if need be. The continuation of the work for the budget is ongoing. We are well into the planning stage. We've had a couple of workshops. We had the mini workshop. We are completing by incorporating the changes that have been requested. We also have to go in and prepare information to go onto the website for the public meetings. So we would like to continue to have Ray Michelle continue the budget workshop, the budget process until the end. So we're requesting approval from the board to actually approve amounts over the amount of the interim CEO's approval authority.
I have a question on this particular contract.
Mm-hmm.
Is it done on an hourly basis or is it done on work completed? How do we determine when an invoice is submitted?
Mm-hmm.
How do we determine how that amount was derived at?
It's hours based on task and hours.
So it's based on both tasks and hours, or
Yes,
the
ma'am.
hours it took to complete the task?
Hours, how many hours to complete a task? Hours
So-
to complete a task.
Now, what I would like to see, I know there anybody else asked, but what I'd like to see is if the things that we want to see happen in order to take this to the end, approximately how many hours would it take, and how close to the $65,000 you would come that you're asking us to approve?
Okay.
Because
so
again, my concern is about the budget you guys presented in our budget workshop.
Yes, ma'am.
And you know, the alarm that was sounded about our financial position by the end of the year,
Mm-hmm.
that I wouldn't want to see us add more burden to that piece if we don't have to. And then additionally, we've hired somebody to work in finance, you know, and we talk about 3 months of that salary as well,
Mm-hmm.
in addition to an increase in your contract hours.
Okay, and I understand, Dr. Robinson. So basically, what you want to see is the proposed number of hours that it would take in order to complete the budget process.
Yeah, it doesn't have, I know it won't be exact,
Mm-hmm.
but my concern is more about where are we gonna be financially at the end of the year
Yes,
overall. And anything that we add to that, what kind of impact would it have on that bottom line that we discussed in our workshop?
Okay. And also, I heard you say that because we're hiring a CFO with the budget process, because we're so far in the midst of this budget process, I'm thinking that we will allow the consultant to stay on to complete this particular process.
Yeah, and I can understand when the person coming in brand new,
Mhm,
it's good to have somebody there along with yourself
mhm.
that would help them kind of ease into that position. I got all of that.
Right,
So
okay.
this is not a personal reflection on anybody.
Mhm.
My concern is about the bottom line, what we're gonna look like at the end of the year.
Okay, I
So,
understand.
so as close as we can get these figures to, and what it's gonna cost us overall, I think the better off we all will be.
Yes, ma'am, I understand, and we can definitely get to that estimate. Yes, ma'am.
Mhm.
All right. Is that it for you, Miss Gloria? You,
For the approval of the contract change, yes, ma'am.
all right. Are we ready to move to item C?
Yes, ma'am. Brent Dice is going to handle that. Next two items, as a matter of fact.
Hi there. The next item on your agenda is the FY21 Low or No Emissions Vehicle Program grant application. I actually submitted this grant application yesterday, which was super exciting. And you've seen this grant application before. We've applied for the past 4 or 5 years, and we were granted this. We were granted funding for this program in both FY18 and FY20. So this year we did a similar application to what we had seen last year, which was 3 electric buses plus onboard charging stations, and then the charging stations at the Cat Central. And so for the full application budget, we have a $3.9 million project. That's 3.1 million in federal requests, and that is $794,000 for a cap match that would come out of SPLOST funding. And in our applications, we also like to make sure that the projects are scalable. We know that there is $180 million in this program, but it is a very competitive program, and there are tons of applications that come in. So just wanted to give the FTA some options if they don't have enough funding to give us our full request. So we did give them 3 alternate budget requests. One is removing the opportunity charging stations, which makes a total project of 3.2 million. One is reducing the request to 2 buses instead of 3, and that brings it down to 2.9 total project. And then the third option would be just asking for 1 zero emission bus, and that brings us down to 1.9 in total project, which would be a federal request of 1.5 million and 384,000 of the cap match. Again, that's a SPLOST match, so we're not pulling that out of our general funds. And I think we had a really strong application again this year. We did get some assistance from Squire Patton Boggs, who always reviews our applications and gives us feedback. So it was a solid application, and I'm excited to see what this administration is going to fund for this year.
The little summary sheet that we got attached to our agenda didn't give me all that information that you just gave me. That was a lot of information you just gave me. But for me, again, the bottom line is that when we say that the fiscal impact requires matching funds would come from SPLOST. So when we take that money from SPLOST, are there any other projects would be impacted by that?
There would not be any other projects impacted. You know, it's a I don't want to say challenge. It's a balancing act to look at SPLOST, because we know SPLOST doesn't come in all at once. It comes in throughout the years. So to figure out which projects are priority. we have, I want to say around 5 million, don't quote me on that, in SPLOST right now. And we know that those funds are continuing to come in. And because our project timeline would be starting in the fourth quarter of 2021, and then the majority of the project would be in 2022 and 23. You know, it takes about a year to build a bus. That gives us enough time plenty of time to build up plenty of additional funds in SPLOST. So there's no worries there about any other funding necessary.
Dr. Robertson, you're muted.
And you have the remix as well?
Yes, ma'am. So
Okay.
this next item on your agenda is the Remix software. This is an annual subscription for software that I want to say, purchased in 2017. Planning and system development staff use this tool for drafting routes, making any potential changes. You can use it for turn-by-turn directions. You can use it for, there's a new feature, which is super exciting, that allows the public to look at a map that we've drawn and then make comments in the map as to, you know, what they like and don't like. So I think that's going to be a really neat tool that we're going to use as we move forward in community outreach, still in the pandemic when we can't necessarily meet with people face-to-face. This is a cost of $27,000, and it is in our contract services budget for FY21. We did request for this cost to be picked up for next year's UPWP with the MPO. In the past, the MPO has paid for some of this program, and we did not get it this year, but we've already put it in the line for FY23. So again, this one is in the budget, so there will be no adverse financial impact. And we certainly use this program a lot.
But we'll renew it again in 2022.
Yes, ma'am.
And in our budget workshop, that item was already there as a potential for 2022.
Yes.
I thought it was. Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay. Anything else, Ms. Brown?
That's it for me.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, I think Mr. Hall is up with the Security Service Temporary Contract Award. Is that you, Mr. Hall?
Yes, ma'am. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
All right. Good afternoon to the rest of the members of the committee. I just wanted to make you aware, as you may already know, that we're in the process of changing our security provider. We're in the process of rolling it out hopefully by this Friday. We have a temporary contract that we're ready to execute that will be monthly, well, month to month, hopefully up to about 6 months. And that's only in place until we get the RFP out and executed. So that should give us an ample amount of time to get exactly what our scope of work needs to be out and have opportunities for other security organizations to bid on that, and hopefully we'll have exactly the product that we want to have in place, juxtaposed to what we had prior to the execution of this temporary contract. Are there any questions relative to this temporary month-to-month contract?
And is the contract with the existing company, or they're totally gone?
No, they're totally gone. Totally.
Okay, because I didn't hear you name the contract, yes, but the contractor. But I did see where you said that you had contacted one DBE company, but you had no response.
Yes, that's correct.
So in Savannah, there's only one DBE security company in Savannah?
That we were able to identify. We did reach out to that provider, and I didn't get a call back at all.
So they're the only DBE in Savannah
that does security, yes, that I know of.
All right, so then the comparably price-wise with the month-to-month is what was budgeted for? Are
Yes.
Are we okay there financially, or is it costing us more to do it month by month, or what is the fiscal ramifications for doing it month by month?
Yes, ma'am. There is a slight increase doing it month to month because they are under a contract. What we did was we went through and negotiated some cost savings within those contractual agreements, and we were able to reduce some of those costs. I know one company that we looked at had a flat rate, and it was significantly higher than the company that we chose to go with. So they were not selected at this particular point in time. Now, I don't know if that rate is going to be the same once we send out the RFP, but because it was in what the security industry deems short term, they did provide us with a rate that was higher than the company that we went with.
And when we look for security companies to avoid what has happened with this past one, what measures do we have in place to ensure that what happened this time won't happen again?
That's a great question. This company that we are using now, they have greater management controls and accountability controls already in place. I actually had an opportunity to watch some of their accounts that they have now. They actually have an account with the city of Savannah and with SCAD. So those are some of the barometers that I used in terms of, for example, professionalism, responsiveness, and engagement. So with those management controls in place and the scope of work along with the post orders, we're hoping to have greater oversight over exactly what they're doing.
And Dr. Robertson, if I may add that the previous contractor, their managers were located in Atlanta. So it was hard to deal with them to resolve conflict. We hope to have a much better relationship with this new company since they're situated here in Savannah. You're muted.
I like that. I like that. I like that.
Yes.
Okay. Again, you guys, you hear me talk a lot about the budget because, I'm really concerned. I'm really concerned that we're not overextending ourselves. We got to do what we got to do to run an efficient. I understand that. I do. And I appreciate that. All right, let's see. Line of credit renewal. Tell me about that.
Okay. We're requesting that the board approve the line of credit renewal for fiscal year 2022. Actually, if the line of credit is renewed, the new line will be available May 1st. We have had this line of credit since August of 2007, and we have been getting it renewed since 2014. We have been using this line of credit during the periods when our tax settlements and grant funding did not all come in an amount that was sufficient to cover our operating expenses. This is the way that line of credit has been used in the past. So we're asking that we move forward with approving to have this line renewed once again. We do currently have some money in the reserve, $4 million. Our goal was to try to have at least 3 pay periods, 3 months pay period in the reserve, which we've fallen a little short on that, but we're still trying to build the reserve. So I think that it would be very helpful if we could approve it. Not that we want to use the line of credit, but just in case there is a need for it, it will be available.
Let me ask you a question, because when I look at this line of credit,
Yes.
Are we talking with us going direct to Wells Fargo or asking the county to do it?
The county will have to guarantee the line of credit.
Through the county?
Ma'am?
You said through the county?
The county would have to guarantee it, yes. Yes, that is correct.
What I'm asking is,
we're currently not in a position to do it on our own.
Right, so the line of credit has to be guaranteed by the county.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yes. And all of us are aware that, we've changed chairman, and there was a discussion last year when we went to them about, and a couple of other commissioners asked why we have to do this year to year to year to year, and when will we be in position that we don't have to do this? So I don't know whether it'll be easy sailing this time, but we need to be able to answer those questions. When why do we need it? Why aren't we able to do it ourselves? When we'll be in that position to do it ourselves? You see what I'm saying? Because they're gonna come up. Those questions are gonna come up. So
Yes.
I'm just suggesting that if we be prepared to be able to answer those questions.
Yes, ma'am. Well, as Ms. Royal stated, sometimes where the tax receipts are smaller and we don't have the cash flow to meet just basic needs, operating funds, operating expenses, and particularly payroll. So that's when this line of credit is utilized. It has more to do with the cash flow than anything else.
I just want us to be prepared when
Yes, ma'am.
answer those questions.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, reserve policy.
Okay, that's a good lead in to the reserve policy, to the question that you just asked, because if we build on our reserve, we will hopefully be in a position at some point where we won't have to rely on that line of credit. We won't have to go back to the county to ensure that line of credit for us. What I'm proposing to the board is simply a commitment to continue to work towards stabilizing and sustaining the organization fiscally. And the policy that I am preparing for your review is just a commitment for the board. I want you to review it and just look over it, add anything or send comments on it. I'll send it to you, the board today, if not today, tomorrow, because I had a few edits that I needed to make as well before I send it to you. But this policy is just to have something in place saying or showing a commitment to continue to build on that reserve. As Ms. Royal stated, we have about $4 million now, which is about a month and maybe a quarter of a month. And we're seeking to have at least a 90-day reserve. So that would take us maybe closer to 10 to $11 million. So we're still building, and hopefully we'll have an opportunity to continue to do so.
And I'm assuming that looking at our next meeting's time, we will have it in our hands. We would have read it and be able to vote on it by April 27th. Is what
Yes,
you're
ma'am.
asking?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. I will have it to you, if not today, tomorrow.
Okay. All right. All right. All right. Is there anything else, Ms. Royal, from you?
No, ma'am, that's it.
Ms. Ragland, anything else from you or any other member of your staff?
Nothing from me, ma'am.
All right. So are there any new business from the committee or any member of staff, any old or new business? We're good?
We're good.
All right. So our next meeting will be our governance meeting, which is April the 20th. And our regular board meeting is April the 27th. Chairman Leggett, did he come back? Well,
He is on, Dr. Robinson, but I don't think he could get to his mute right now to unmute.
okay. All right. Well, since I opened, I'm going to adjourn his meeting.
All right. Thank you.
If there is no other questions or comments, I would like to adjourn this meeting. Thank you, guys. You guys are awesome. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Bye-bye.